Welcome back. Today we have a couple of recognition days, some history, a stellar birthday, a remarkable venue, a song and a quote. So grab your favorite cuppa, settle in, and let's see what we have. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for October 20th. October 20th is the 293rd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 294th in leap years, with 72 days remaining to the end of the year. This is World Statistics Day. World Statistics Day is an international day created by the United Nations Statistical Commission to celebrate statistics and is celebrated by 103 countries every 5 years, so it's not an annual celebration. This year's theme is Quality Statistics and Data for Everyone. This is also World Osteoporosis Day. This one is an annual event organized by the International Osteoporosis Foundation, IOF, dedicated to raising global awareness of bone health and of the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of osteoporosis and metabolic bone disease. Take care of your bones, folks. Today's word is civil. Civil is an adjective that has several related meanings related to being about a citizen or part of a community that requires cooperation, respect, and order. That said, civil can relate to citizens or society, anything connected to ordinary citizens and their community, distinct from the military, the church, or criminal matters. For example, civil rights protect the individual's freedoms under the law. Civil can relate to the state, where it may be used in contrast to religious or military authority. For example, civil law governs disputes between individuals rather than crimes against the state. Civil can also mean polite and respectful, describing courteous behavior even when minimal. An example sentence in this context could be, even though they disagreed, they remained civil during the discussion. Some common uses and phrases using the word civil could have to do with civil rights, which have to do with legal protections ensuring individual freedom and equality. Civil law, which in legal systems refers to private law such as contracts, property, and family disputes, separate from criminal law. You might hear the term civil war, which is a war fought between groups within the same country, or civil engineering, which is the branch of engineering concerned with infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, and buildings. Again, being civil is about being a citizen, part of a community that requires cooperation, respect, and order. The word civil comes to us through Middle English, Old French before that, and ultimately from Latin, a word that meant relating to a citizen. First known use of the word civil is in the 1300s, civil. Today's word civil was suggested by YouTube viewer at Roberta Reel 7980. Thanks, Roberta. And if you have a word you'd like to see in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll get it on the list. And with that, as you probably know, the United States comprises a good-sized chunk of the North American continent. Canada, of course, lies to the north and Mexico to the south, with the United States taking up most of the middle. France, Spain, and England had laid claim to various parts of what is now the United States. A few other countries too, but those three were the major players. Of course, the American colonists revolted against British rule and acquired their freedom in the 1700s, forming a new nation, the United States of America. But America didn't hold sway over the entire continent. The French and the Spanish had parts of it too. You may know that we have a state called Louisiana. It's a boot-shaped state in the southern part of the United States. The mighty Mississippi River runs through it, forming a delta in the Gulf of Mexico. Prior to today's item, though, most of present-day Louisiana was just a tiny portion of a much larger area called the Louisiana Territory that spread over a large portion of present-day United States. The Louisiana Territory covered an area that now comprises the states of Montana, North and South Dakota, parts of Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, part of Minnesota, portions of New Mexico and Texas, and even up into Canada. It was huge. The French had the Louisiana Territory from 1699 until Spain acquired it in 1792. France got it back in 1800, but that didn't quite work out for a variety of reasons. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison were interested in acquiring the Louisiana Territory for the United States and set about in negotiation with the French for it. And when the French offered to sell the Louisiana Territory to the United States, our guys didn't waste any time making a deal. Of course, a deal that big is bound to have some opponents, and this one sure did. But Jefferson and Madison managed to talk Congress into it. $15 million for the purchase, which breaks down to about $18 per square mile. This would effectively double the size of the United States and give us control over the waterways of the Mississippi River. And so it is that on October 20th, 1803, the United States Senate ratified the Louisiana Purchase. Oh my goodness, this is the birthday of the late great Tom Petty, born October 20th, 1950. He had so many hit records from the 1970s through the 20-teens and sold more than 80 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling music artists of all time. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in December of 2001 and have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. A remarkable force of music Tom Petty was. He said in an interview that he knew he wanted to be in a band the moment he saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and by golly, he did it. He sure did. His discography shows 16 studio albums and 68 singles, and he's had a channel on Sirius XM satellite for, over a dozen years. You can listen in your car or stream online, Tom Petty Radio. He'd developed a few health issues, as so many of us do as the decades pile on. A bad knee or two, emphysema. He'd also fractured a hip and was trying to put that surgery off until his tour was done. Got to respect the sense of responsibility to his crew, and I can totally relate to doing anything possible to postpone or evade a big surgery like that. I can also tell you that an injured hip can be unbelievably painful, so what a Herculean effort on his part. He'd just gotten in from his last tour and succumbed to an accidental overdose of pain medications. I certainly remember where I was when I heard that he'd passed. He died on October 2nd, 2017, at the age of 66. The Sydney Opera House was opened by Queen Elizabeth II after 14 years of construction. It was April of 1988, and George Harrison was working on a new single. The record company was pressuring him for something to put on the B-side of this record. George talked to Jeff Lynne about it. Roy Orbison happened to be there and said, "I'd like to come along and watch." Unable to book studio time on such short notice, they called up Bob Dylan and asked if they could use his home studio. He readily agreed. Tom Petty got involved when George went to his house to pick up his guitar, and they invited him to come too, and so it is that what would become the supergroup the Traveling Wilburys were formed of such impromptu beginnings. With only the chord sequence and the opening phrase, "been beat up and battered around," in mind to start with, the rest of the song was the result of a group effort, on the spot, in that day. George asked Bob Dylan, "Give us some lyrics, you famous lyricist." Bob said, "What's the title?" George looked around the garage and saw a box with the words "Handle with Care." Remember now, the initial assignment was to get a B-side for a single George was working on. When George presented "Handle with Care" to the record company, they said, "Oh, this is too good to just be a B-side," and declined it for that purpose. Tom and Jeff had been kicking around an idea of forming a group called the Traveling Wilburys, and with this song in their hands, they decided to move forward with it and set about to record more songs. They recorded the music video for "Handle with Care" in October of 1988. It would be the last video to feature Roy Orbison, who passed 2 months later of a heart attack. Handle with Care was the Wilburys' debut single and released on a new label, and the video got lots of play on both MTV and VH1. The song has, of course, been covered by plenty of other artists. Great song, Handle with Care, by the Traveling Wilburys. Link in the description. How about that? The Traveling Wilburys were only active from 1988 to 1991, although some of the members have collaborated on projects after that. For today's quote, I found one by Tom Petty. I recommend taking it as a great piece of advice and truth, and it is, I've learned one thing, and that's to quit worrying about stupid things. Most things I worry about never happen anyway. Tom Petty. All right, y'all take care. Be good to each other. I'll see you next time. And a hearty and grateful shout out to these lovely folks who've bought me a coffee. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to add your name to that list, there is a link in the description where you too can buy me a coffee. All righty. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. No Really. No, really. Consider following my Day in History page on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I also have a Patreon account now, or you can buy me a coffee. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.